Hi everyone, and welcome to a brief video where we're going to discuss what is dynamic seating. My name is Michelle Lange. I'm an occupational therapist in the Denver, Colorado area. Let's go ahead and get started. So just what is dynamic seating? Well, dynamic seating is defined as movement which occurs within the seating system and/or wheelchair frame in response to intentional or unintentional force generated by the client. Dynamic components absorb force and return energy to assist the client back to a starting position. Why is this important? Well, when you do a literature search, we'll find that dynamic seating is used in multiple ways, and so it's very important to have a clear and accurate definition of this technology. Now, this isn't just my definition. There's actually an international dynamic seating work group who discussed at length and after a very thorough literature review and determined a final definition for dynamic seating, and that definition is what we just read here. So let's break that definition down because it's a little wordy. First, we start with movement which occurs within the seating system and/or wheelchair frame. So that movement can occur in different areas. Most frequently, we're going to see movement at the hips, at the legs, and at the neck. So movement can occur at the hips, like is shown here, and that is provided in a dynamic back. Movement at the legs occurs within the seating system as well, and these dynamic components, dynamic footrests, can capture either knee elevation or knee extension, as well as a telescoping movement that occurs when the entire leg extends. And then we have movement at the head, which is captured by specialized hardware behind the head support, and that can capture either neck extension or neck rotation, depends on the component. Now, part of our definition is intentional or unintentional forces from the client. On the left here, we have a client who is seeking out a rocking sort of movement. This is more of an intentional movement. On the right, we have a client who is displaying extension and dystonia, and that is leading to forces that are absorbed again by this dynamic component. The next part of our definition is that the dynamic component absorbs forces created by the movement of the client and returns this as energy. This gets into physics a little bit, and that's not my deal. I'm an occupational therapist. So the dynamic component might be an elastomer, a spring, a hydraulic, and the force from the client compresses that component. It absorbs some of the forces from the client and it stores that as energy. Why is that important? Well, the stored energy is what assists the client back to upright. Another key portion of dynamic seating is that this return to upright occur without a loss of position. And this is really important because if the client moves, comes back, but loses their posture, for example, slides into a posterior pelvic tilt, then this isn't a very effective intervention. So the design of the component keeps this in mind. It's very key to the design, and a lot of this has to do with where the pivot point of the dynamic component is in relation to the pivot point of the anatomy of the client. So a dynamic back needs to pivot in line with movement at the hips in order to not lose position for the client. So thank you very much for joining us for this brief video here. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or need further information, contact us at this contact information here below. Thanks very much.